good day to everybody and wishing you a beautiful day. Thank you for joining our show. And today our special guest is Janice Perkins. Hello, Janice. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
Such a privilege for us to have you here and so grateful that we're able to connect virtually. So our audience love to hear your story. Would you please bring us back all the way the journey? How is everything a good thing started?
Yes, well, I'm from the Midwest in the US, and I grew up in a small town. My dad had been on a farm in Illinois, and so small town living in the Midwest is pretty simple. We try to get in trouble when no one's looking, and I have two sisters, and I was involved in athletics and went away to college. And I'm kind of a wandering spirit, and so I wandered around in college and ended up overseas in London a couple semesters, and back in Chicago after that, which is also kind of in the middle of the country, but a larger city. And I actually studied the creative arts. I was a painter a long time ago. I actually started college as a math major, and I ended up in the art department. I have a very diverse skill set, and I ended up, the bulk of my career was in strategic marketing, which makes sense. When you think about it, I'm really good at math and creative. So I have a strategic mind. I like looking at the whole picture and looking for solutions. I can see gaps in things. I kind of visually see problems. So that's how I did a lot of my work in corporate. I was in business development and marketing. I did some consulting work when my kids were young and did a lot of board development and strategy and business planning with different organizations. And over the last 10 years, I'm a people nerd, and I realized that strategy wasn't easy to implement when people got in the way. So I started understanding culture better, and I was an early student of John Maxwell and some other of the leadership greats, and kind of became a people nerd. And then over the last 10 years, started doing more leadership development and people development. I got certified in a couple communication programs and leadership development programs, and went out on my own about 3 years ago. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
Wow, what an outstanding journey! Allow us to bring you all the way back to when you were a small village girl, right? Back then, did you ever think that one day you're gonna become a person who train people, who travel, do keynote speed and things like that? Have you ever thought?
No, I think the only thing that aligns with what I thought I might be doing is that I do love people. And I was really very short and tiny. I was like the shortest person. I was like the last person to grow in my grade. And because of that, I think I had to develop a sense of humor, because everybody picked on me and I didn't like that feeling. And so I became funny. And so I liked being around people. I liked entertaining, if that makes any sense. And I love traveling and meeting new people. So part of that journey for me has definitely aligned, and getting to connect with people all over the world and getting to share with audiences. I definitely feed off the energy of other people.
So back then, what did you dream one day when you grow up you're gonna become? What kind of job do you
Uh,
think that you're gonna do?
I was definitely such a wandering soul. I don't know that I knew. I think that's why I jumped from mathematics into the art department. I really just wanted to use the gifts and talents I had to do something, but I had a lot of trouble finding what that something was. And so I kind of let the world set the trajectory for me and kept doing things I was good at until I found a job that really fit it.
Hmm. Then 10 years ago, you found your answer in helping people, in leadership development space and training and things like that. What caused you to, moving from, working for corporate and then starting to do to find that passion though?
No, I think it was just seeing what impact could be made. You know, you can give someone, what is the saying? You can give someone fish, but if you teach them to fish, you feed them for life. And so I think what I realized is I had been consulting in the marketing and strategy world for a long time. but I wasn't making lasting change. I was just handing over temporary solution tools in those seasons. And when I realized the impact I could make training a leader, it transformed me and made me realize that's where I wanted to leave my mark.
Janice, because when you work as the business development and marketing, you've been in that for a long time. So the skill sets is there, the relationships is there, clients are there also, and the knowledge, everything is ready. And then you shifted to leadership development space, something that you have to build everything from scratch again. New client, new reputation, new brand, and everything. So what courage did you give to yourself back then, 10 years ago, to tell to Jenny, hey, you can do that? Can you tell us that story, please?
It definitely was frightening. It was probably more frightening when I started doing it on my own a little over 3 years ago. I had done it in the corporate space a little bit. I was doing marketing, consulting, as well as, some leadership training. But I was definitely still standing in the marketing space more. And most people in the community knew me as that. What's really interesting is, and I tell people this all the time, one of the best ways to network yourself and build your reputation is just to embed yourself in your community. And I had been a volunteer for years on different boards and at my kids' school and at my church and a variety of things. So I had lots of networking in all over the community. And so as I began to brand myself doing that, it wasn't hard for people to see me as that person. I had already been doing that work. I just hadn't really I didn't have a developed system and I wasn't charging for it, if that makes sense. And so I just began to tell people that's what I was doing and to give me an opportunity. And it happened really easily. Because I had built all these really great relationships and people already saw the impact I could make in an organization.
When you say, sorry, Vivian, go ahead.
So I think it's very difficult to build a network and then even more difficult to maintain it. So what are of your, advices and suggestions for us? Yeah.
So there's a couple things that I do, which are probably unique to me. Although I know that other people can apply them. I love being with people so very much and connecting in person. So I have breakfast or lunch usually with someone different every day around the community. There are just people who I call connectors. And whether they're clients or friends or connectors, that staying in touch with them all over the community is very beneficial. I also have people that I Zoom with frequently across the country and the world to stay connected because I think that the routine of connection is important versus just when you think about it. Our lives get really busy when we're parents and we're working. And so I find that when I have like a monthly lunch with someone or a monthly Zoom meeting, that we stay more in touch and in tune, and the connection is stronger. So that when there's an ask or a favor or an introduction, then we're top of mind for each other. Oh my gosh, I just had lunch with her. I think she'd be great for your organization, right? So I think that's really important, is to stay connected like that in person. Building a network. And then the other one is just volunteering. My community is really important to me, and how my kids are in the community. And, they laugh now. My kids and I, when we're out eating together, they'll say, everywhere we go, someone. And I said, that's because I've worked at it. I've left my deposits in different places, and one of my mantras is actually to leave things better than I found them. And that means that with the people I connect with, I hand them something, whether that's introducing them to another person I know that they'll get along with, or a vendor that I know they should use, or another client, or something like that. I think it's really beneficial to be a connector and just to leave deposits with people because you never know when you're going to have an ask.
Yeah, but if your network is expanding too, too big, right? How do you build a system that can give you, the flexibility, the reminder of stay connected with the people? Can you share that with us?
Yes, I began to see the erosion of relationships over time because of that busyness. And so,
Mm,
um, honestly, LinkedIn and some of the social media was very helpful. Going to conferences,
mm,
before the pandemic, it helped expand my network, for sure, in the US and globally, so that I had connections outside of my own community.
mm,
And then I treated them the same, staying connected monthly or quarterly, inviting them to online seminars and other things where we can interact together or share
mm,
commonality, and
mm,
introducing them to people that I know they'll want to be connected with. I mean, I probably just this week did that 4 or 5 times already when I met a couple new people this week in the global community as well as my local community. And I immediately connected them with someone who they had something in common with, that I
mm.
thought that they could either do business together or be connected. It's just one of the things I love doing for people.
Wow. Thanks. Janice, allow me to ask you this. 3 years, a little bit more than 3 years ago, you started your own company, right? And then why did you choose the name as Capacity, though? There's
Hmm.
million names out there you can choose to help people to grow. And then why chose Capacity?
That's a really good question. And I'll tell you the funny part of the story. There's two funny parts of the story. One is, um, I was working for a corporation, a subsidiary of a corporation, doing
Mm,
leadership development and marketing, and they were diversifying, divesting, I would actually say, and closing some of their subsidiaries. So I got to keep some of the contracts I was working on, and
mm,
I thought, well, I will just do consulting for a little while and look for a job. And so I just kept calling myself Janice Perkins Consulting. And I kind of got woken up in the middle of the night. I'm a very faith based person. And I kind of got woken up in the night and I felt like the Lord was saying, you should name it. If you
mm,
don't name it, it's not real. And I
mm,
was like, okay, that's true. I'm kind of dodging that I started a business. I'm pretending. And so there were some relationships going on in my life at that point, and I felt like the conversations around those relationships were there was a constant theme of capacity.
mm,
What capacity I had or what I needed, what capacity people had to give. And I started realizing that we limit our own capacity. Our
mm,
mindset limits our resources, right? We only
mm,
have so many hours in a day and two hands, and the speed that this computer will go or how good this camera will stay on. But in essence, what I have to give other people in impact is much more infinite, because
mm,
my heart has the ability and my character and my reputation to expand tenfold based on my network, based on my resources, and based on what I have to give. One of the examples I use in training all the time is, I know a woman in her 90s who has like 27 great grandchildren.
mm,
And she didn't have to go have surgery to love those great grandchildren more. Her heart just automatically loved, right? And I think sometimes we take for granted how much hope, and love can impact our world, that we can
mm,
always have more to give. We
mm,
don't have to have training for that.
mm,
Our heart can do the work.
mm,
And in essence, when we can do that, we actually have more steadfast ability to process and have optimal outcome in just what we do in our gifts and talents.
mm,
So I decided to call it capacity, so I get to talk about it all the time, and how we limit our own capacity based on our mindset and our families of origin and our workplaces, and sometimes our distressors that really impact us, right? When we focus on the things that go wrong, then we're not focusing on the things that are going right. And all of a sudden, our negative outlook changes our capacity for the day. So it just makes the work fun for me, that then everyone always asks, why do you name it that? And I get to talk about it. It makes me excited. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I actually really like the word capacity, so that's fascinating me also when I look at the companies you work for, uh, because as part of my job, we also help people to grow their capacity, to grow them, the potential within them, and uh, and a lot of the time what hit me to the wall, my head to the wall is, I know that the person has the potential in there, but that person didn't even realize it, or refuse to accept that. And in your line of works, how do you help people, like tell people that they have and that they need to believe and work on so that they can grow their capacity though?
It's one of my other mantras that I say all the time. It's what gets me out of bed to do this work every day, is I love helping people get out of their own way, right? We get in our own way. So self-awareness is the first step. And in fact, in the program that I do with people, when I train groups or individuals in coaching, the first box of the training is called empty. We have to empty ourselves of toxicity. We have to cut anchors that are weighing us down. We have to plug the holes in the boat that we've been drilling ourselves that are causing us to leak. And when we can shore those things up, we have so much more in resource than we imagined we have, but we waste it in places. We waste it, we let it leak out, and when we take on other people's waste or toxicity, how much it drains our own. And so we have to have really healthy boundaries, and we have to have that perspective and self-awareness to look at the situations that we're in and the situations where we can set ourselves up for more success and the ones that set us up for failure. And we have to choose. We have to choose differently.
Janice, that leads me to a question because our ability to think about things, when we are clear, then we might see things very clear. But when we are not clear, then our observation, our belief, our thinking will alter our the result also. So how do we make sure that the people empty what is worth to be empty, and then keep things that need, and don't empty things that's supposed to be good for them though?
One of the things we could actually do is shake everything out of the shoebox and then only put back in the treasure. A lot of times identifying, and I go through exercises with people, is identifying what our actual treasure is that we're each born with, right? And our gifts and talents belong in that bucket, but also who we are deep in the core of us is attached to those gifts and talents. And when that becomes the lighthouse of purpose that we can focus on, then we don't pick up those other things anymore. We don't have to put that other stuff back in our shoebox, right? The toxic things. We start with the treasure, and that treasure alone, usually when we focus on it, I tell a story all the time about focus, that when my daughter was really little, she was terrified of water. And so we spent the first 3 years of her life doing swimming lessons just to get her into the water without screaming. And by year 3, she was in the water, but like clinging to the instructor in a life vest and trying to learn how to put her face in the water, right? And so we would practice in the bathtub, and she would blow bubbles in the bathtub, and she would be happy, right? And then she'd get in the pool and scream her head off. And so one day I asked her, what's different about the pool and what's in the bathtub? And she said, well, she's 3 years old. She said, well, the pool has a deep end. And I said, but you've never been near the deep end. It's way over there across the rope, and no one's going to put you in it. You don't ever have to worry about that. You can have fun where you are right here in the shallow end and blow bubbles. And she said, yeah, but I can see it from there. And that is the thing, that we sometimes focus on the fear or the unknown tomorrow or the uncertainty, or we focus on the past where bad things happened. And where we're looking is where we're headed, right? It's where our mind's energy and all of our treasure is being leaked or put toward. And so when we can do something as simple as shift our focus and realize how that's damaging our outlook, that can free up so much capacity and resource that we have to put our gifts and talents on something positive.
Well, if that's the case, we have the movie Die Hard, right? Habits also dies hard, also, Jenny. So
That's right.
how can bad habits easily to come back and haunt us? Also, how can we build a system that that safeguard us, from the bad habits to come back, though?
Well, the first step is recognizing the bad habits. And I think a lot of times we kind of know what they are, but the essence of our distress we have traps and triggers in our distress that create other bad habits. And so it's not just our daily bad habits, it's the bad behavior we do when we're overwhelmed or stressed. So I have different exercises that we go through in training where we identify what I call our tend tos, the things I tend to do when it's the end of the week or the end of the day or I'm overwhelmed, whether or not I retreat into a cave or I lash out at people, those kinds of things. And then we bring those bad behaviors to the attention of the mind's eye so that I'm more aware of them when they happen. But I also tell people, whether or not you put a Post-it note or you tell your colleagues at work or your spouse or your best friend, there are people that have to hold you accountable to better behavior. So that when they see that, they say, no, I'm not going to let you go into a cave today, right? I'm not going to let you shut me out. Let's take 5 minutes and get back to a calm place so we can start again. And it's understanding I'm responsible for that tend to behavior that puts me into stress. I'm responsible for the actions of that, not anyone else. Regardless of toxic behavior, I'm still responsible for me. And so I have to take ownership of that. And I have to hold myself accountable and allow other people to. I have to willingly invite people into an accountability space so I can be a better version of me.
Wow. So besides empty, what else that what is the next thing that we need to be aware of and build up, Janice?
Well, the next step is examine. And in the examine step, it's really unearthing the things about me that I've been willing or unwilling to know well. And again, the bad parts of me. So what I do in distress is really important that I understand the system of humanness, right? I can't eliminate stress from my life, and I can't eliminate the feeling of being overwhelmed. No matter how much training I do or how strong I am, I'm still going to have a bad day where 12 things happen in a row that cause me to feel overwhelmed. So understanding my humanness is really important so that I can try to do my very best to stay out of at least 3rd degree distress or 2nd degree distress, right? If I understand what I need to feel more fulfilled and strong, I can step out of the space for a minute and either do a breathing exercise, take 5 minutes, take a short walk, get a snack, whatever I need to do to come back into my strong self and continue to function so I have a more optimal outcome. The more I'm in my strong self, the more likely I'm not putting things on other people around me, right? Yep. So I'm causing less distress on others. So examining the way I'm really wired to be and how I can handle distress and where my traps and triggers are is really important to me staying in my gifts and talents.
Wow.
And in my treasure.
Wow. I think it's very powerful, because if we continue to understand our strength and utilize it, then not only that we don't give the stress to people, but we expand our help and positivity on the life of others, and it will attract more people to support us to grow also, right? And besides, after that, what is the next step for if we want to increase our capacity, though?
So the next step is what I do with teams. I call it expand and then accelerate. So in expand, we have to learn how we communicate with other people. So how I can utilize and accept the differences in other people, as well as communicate with them in more success so that I'm not alone in the world, right? My gifts and talents aren't complete. They are complete when I put them with other gifts and talents of other people so that we can achieve more when we collaborate, when we do even the simplistic terms of reciprocity, where I exchange what I have for what you have. We don't have to be besties, but we have something that can help one another. And so we have to learn how we can't be an island and we can't run life solo, right? And my way is not the only way. And so when I learn to accept the perspective of others as well as what they have to give to the team, we can expand together. But I have a unique way to communicate different than yours. And we have to learn our languages and how we can reach one another better so that we can have a full value of the other person.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. Janice, I know that we have a limited time because you have another meeting. So I just want to go to the last question for today. So we understand your past and then the current things that you're working on. Is there any exciting things that Janice is working on and that you want us to, celebrate with you in advance?
Okay, well, there's two things.
Mm.
One, as parents, you can understand this too. I'm celebrating in a year, my son will graduate and go to college. So we are in the process, right, of putting
Yes.
one out of the nest.
Uh,
It is a lot to celebrate. So that's a big deal in my world. I also finished my MBA last year, and I am pursuing my PhD. I'm looking
wow.
into a leadership communication program that's at Kansas State University. So I'm excited to get started with that. I'm a little trepidatious about heading into another educational foray while I also have my own business, but I'm certain it is what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's really exciting for me.
Wow. You
Great
are
motivations, yeah.
yeah,
For us too.
you're a role model, to grow capacity. So that's the work that you do. Really role model everybody to doing that. So thank you so much for spending your morning now, right? Your morning to join our insight sharing program and share your story. We really appreciate that, Janice. We wish everybody a wonderful day and. Tell your son that enjoy the college life and you too enjoy the PhD program. It's going to be challenging, but it's going to be rewarding. So
It was wonderful to meet you both. What a blessing you both are, and exciting work that you're doing there. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
thank
Nice to
you.
meet you guys.
You too. Bye bye. Thanks, Vivian too.